here and readjust this.
Yeah. Can we actually?
Look at that. That's nice.
Perfect.
Are you feeling? Look, you can do that. You can stand from over here.
Yeah, I think this is good.
You know,
this is good.
if you're feeling like it's too tight.
No, this is good. I can see
Okay.
it. I'm just
I'll
trying to see
adjust
where
it.
I can see everyone. I don't think there's anybody whose view who I can't see. If people don't move their chairs, which we're asking them not to.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to.
What about these candles?
Oh, so
I didn't find any. You know what they have those candles are?
So too bad I didn't know in advance put like a sheet here.
sheet.
Yeah, because it looks just kind of.
Oh, it's real.
Yes, it is. Okay. Okay. All right. So when you go to do that, I'll put the stool up and I'll get it adjusted for both you and Mary.
Yeah, I mean it'll be right at the beginning, like right after, because I'll be welcoming people, then I'll turn around for Kol Nidre, and then I'll be. I almost wonder if it's better.
Do you want me to sit right here with the chair and I can just hold it and then put it back there so you don't have to move? Just initially. Well, I guess it has to stay connected, so never mind.
I mean, I think the very beginning it's going to be there, and then I wonder is at the end of the world if what they see is
the back of you davening.
The back of me davening.
No, because that's what they would see if they were in
15
shul.
minutes for 15 minutes, right?
Okay, but we need to make sure. Here, go stand like you're davening. Because you're completely.
Yeah. Well, then I can just, if that's there,
yeah, why you
then I can just pull this.
Yeah, this will just be pulled around for the welcome.
Yep, exactly.
And then just move it aside. Okay, so let's just make sure this is good.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
and then so if I'm here.
Perfect. I would like to scoot it back a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Okay, rested here.
That's much better. It's more of a.
Did you catch the police officer's name again? He told
Jesse,
me that I forgot.
It's written down on the sheet of paper.
Which sheet of paper?
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Just look for it down. Remember to thank it.
All right. Hello. Hi. All right. That's good. I'm going to sit right here so I can. Do you need this to be closer? I think okay. So I'll be able to see the rabbi who needs me to come up and adjust anything. So. Sure. Oh, you know what? I didn't bring them up. Whoops. Oh well. All right. Good.
No, I was actually wondering, like, how, are these already accounted for? Like,
No, they're not set up for people who register.
okay.
That I'm aware of. Because the ones that are have names on them.
Sure. I think it's this one.
If it goes on that side, then we're still 6 feet between those two. Thank you, thank you. As I'm sure you're aware, a lot of unpacking. And I'm unpacking, and then I'm also preparing my old home, get ready for sale.
Oh,
So
that's
it's like, I'm tired, but it's all good. I love my new house so much. I can't even stand it. I love it so much.
so exciting.
And Nebby loves it, so good.
Homeschooling and everything's going okay.
Yes, we are taking off a couple of weeks. We always take off for Rosh Hashanah. We'll take off, obviously, for so we start on Tuesday until Sukkot, and then we take off the whole time for Sukkot.
Oh, that's so fun.
So that's what's nice about homeschooling, lots of flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to have those awkward conversations with teachers.
Oh yeah, we've done it for so many years for my other. Well, Leah was in the day school through 8th grade, but 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, she missed so much school for the holidays. It was very stressful. Catch up. They didn't always understand.
Right.
But
And even if like they do give you like, sure you can do this or do that, you still have to make up all the work.
right while you're doing your current work.
On top of it. Yeah. It's being there done. It's not fun.
Right.
Not fun.
Right. So.
That's much nicer.
What's really nice is her Monday schedule at university, she only has one class. She's only missing one class.
That's good. That is really good.
Yeah. So how are you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Which is a little,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's not. Like, moving and really having like the opportunity to make new connections and become stronger. It's just such a weird time.
It is. It is.
It comes with a package of COVID. So
I got my puppy during COVID, and he hasn't been able to be socialized really because
clothes were wear, right?
in the neighborhood I just moved into, there's a lot more people on the streets, and he just barks.
Not used to it. Last year we were having this lunch and we forgot. And like,
I know.
really like the neighborhood stuff.
Oh, hi. Nice to connect the. Oh, yeah. Connect the dots. Right. At least half of it is. You're at 60 plus a minute. Oh, yeah. Plus a minute. Yeah. So the monster, actually, that's something I could use some help with. Yeah, grab the monsters out of.
Do you want me to grab them, Rabbi?
Yeah, I got.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Travis.
I think so. You mentioned him before.
Yeah. 33 people in New York, Brooklyn. He hadn't been in office in 9 months. A year. He bought a farm in Bethel, New York. Yeah.
Well, it came
Makes sense.
Yeah. And he had a stress dream. But I didn't set up a
So,
Thank you.
I'm just going to bring all the ones that are on top of the shelf. Anyone who's signed up for the 9 a.m. indoor service, there's a machzor on your chair. and you can use that. And then anybody, do you have your mic, sir?
Yeah. We're here, Rabbi.
What's that?
We're here.
We're here. We're gonna. Good thing is we don't need a minion for Kol Nidre to get started, and we need to start on time ish, which is accepting your input.
Okay.
So I would say now grab your scoop of water now. You didn't,
After 20 hours doesn't make much difference anyway.
I sometimes think overloading on water right before the fast, you just
No, it'll come straight out.
exactly. It's kind of counterproductive.
Thanks for. I don't know if your wife told you that you're helping us move.
No,
the
no,
tent.
I told her I can
Okay,
help move.
good.
I don't think
it's
it's-
going to be that hard.
I don't think it's gonna take that long.
No,
I
I
think
think we have 4 or 5 people
okay.
total.
I think unhooking those and
Yeah.
moving on.
I think it'll be okay.
Please, right. I think there's time, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, you've only been doing it for 20 years.
The camera loves me. Oh,
Yeah. Go stand right here. I just want to see what I'm going to have to adjust when you talk. I'm going to stand right in front of this.
I usually
And
work
make sure you're this way a little bit so we don't you're not
Mhm.
you don't have a pull on your head.
I usually work with my own.
Oh, you're perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move this stuff to the center table because this is our Aron Kodesh, not a.
Yeah, let's
Functional
move it
table.
behind the camera.
Um, um,
Let's do
Should I
it
take
like
one of
this.
these? Should I take it home and bring it back tomorrow?
No,
Or
if
no?
you have
You're
one on
signed
your
up.
chair,
Oh.
you should pull that one and just make sure you put it back.
I don't have one. I'm not sure.
Are you
So-
signed up for tomorrow morning?
I don't think I am.
Are you signed up for
Is there a
tomorrow
hush
morning?
coming tomorrow?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I signed for that either.
Okay, well then you won't have. Yeah, so grab one of these
All right.
monsters then.
I'll leave it somewhere where.
Okay.
Check with Cassandra. She knows who. She has the list of who signed up for what.
Okay, so we can.
Sounds good.
All right.
You know, special.
My wife, can I give you?
There we go. Should I?
Do you mind holding into that?
I'm gonna tear this off so no one has to try and tear it later if they need to get to it.
It's nice that we have
All right. Okay. Is that good? Yeah. Does Larry need a face mask? I mean,
Yeah,
face
but
shield?
You don't have your a face shield, do you?
okay, I'm gonna
There's,
go
there's
grab
one right
back.
here,
Yeah.
I think. There's one right here.
Is that yours though? Okay. So Larry, this is yours when you come up to talk. Let's see how many people are watching us right now. Get ready. 17. We have 17 people on.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בלשנו את עזוב וציוונו להסתתף בבסיס. Okay, I can't. Yeah, I just realized I'm relying on this to tell me the time, how much time we have.
Okay.
and I can't see with my.
I see that Leslie has a watch. I could ask her to time it for us.
You'll let us. Can you give me a 5 minutes at 6:26? Can you give me a? Yeah. Can you give me a?
6:25.
Well, I mean that's the 18 minutes. 6:31 is the 18 minutes. So if you give me
Okay.
6:20, if you 6:25, give me a yeah.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
All right. I know that people are still finding their seats, but I want to go ahead and get started because we are on a little bit of a schedule, given that we're trying to do Kol Nidre and Yizkor and the Yom Kippur appeal and a drasha before 6:31, which is candlelighting. So I want to say, first of all, welcome to all of you who are joining us in person and those joining on the live stream. This is sort of uncharted territory that we're entering into this year. COVID is pushing us beyond our comfort zone in ways that are sometimes hard, but maybe sometimes for the best. We will be turning off the stream prior to the start of Yom Tov when use of electronics becomes forbidden. I will add that because we're doing this early and Yom Tov doesn't, the fast doesn't begin till 6:31, anyone who has not explicitly decided to start the fast already or lit candles with the intention of starting Yom Kippur can continue eating and drinking until either 6:31 or we say Shehechianu, whichever comes first. So I want to take a moment before we begin to just thank everyone whose hard work made these services possible. And I'm not going to be able to name everyone because then we would be here until after Yom Tov starts, but I have to explicitly thank Ruth Schachter, who's put in long hours, evenings and weekends, working 6 and 7 days a week for a number of weeks now, making sure the space is set up inside, the space is set up outside, the announcements go out, the shofar gets mailed, and we couldn't have done anything that we're doing without her. I want to thank Kalanit Chapel, who's here running the live stream, who was instrumental, along with the help of many volunteers. Some of you are here tonight in setting this canopy up. I want to thank Keith Putnam, who built this beautiful new mechitza for us this morning. And I want to thank Cassandra Hanner and Officer Meinhardt, who are out there keeping us safe from COVID and other things. And I want to thank everybody who's going to be leading davening or laning over the holiday, and especially those who agreed to lead things last minute when, because of COVID, some of the people we were expecting to lead stuff became unavailable. Adhere to the social distancing guidelines and keeping masks on and staying 6 feet apart from one another at all times. And I want to thank everybody who made the choice for their own safety and for the safety of others to stay home and watch on the live stream. And we'll be davening not only Kol Nidre, but Yizkor before the sun goes down, which we're moving up. Instead of doing it tomorrow morning, we'll do it now so that people who aren't able to be here in person can participate. In order to, now normally there's a tradition that those who have two living parents leave the room for Yizkor. I'll ask that folks don't stray too far, but if possible, if you're able to, just stay in your seat and use the time for quiet meditation or contemplation. And I will, okay. One last bit of housekeeping is that I ask that everybody for all of the indoor and outdoor services. Please not move your chairs. They've been placed very deliberately to allow not only for social distancing, but for space for people to get around, to get back and forth to each side of the mechitza. And so I ask that we leave spaces that are currently open and not move chairs around. And with that, I think that's all the housekeeping. We'll begin services on page 64 of your machzor. Can I get, yeah, Dan and Larry, will you come up and each hold a Sefer Torah? And we'll be davening a somewhat abbreviated version of what we would normally do for Kol Nidre for the sake of not unnecessarily lengthening our time together.
You just stay in place, right?
Just stay in place, yeah. We won't be carrying the Sefer Torah around. Ozarwa la tzadik, ולאיש ללב שמחו. על דעת המקום ועל דעת הכל בישיבו של מעלה ובישיבו של מטו אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים על דרך המקום ועל דרך הכל בשמו של מעלו ובשמו של מטו אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים ועל דרך המקום ועל דרך הכל בשמו של מעלו ובשמו של מטו אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים. Kol Nidre ve'esorei ושבוכי וכיונמי וכינוסי וכינויי דהינדרנו ודהשתבנו ודגרימנה ודאסרנה על נפשו סונו מיום כיפורים שגבר עד יום כיפורים זה ומיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה ורון יחרתנו בהון וקין שביסין ותהילין ומבוטלין, לא שרירין ולא קיימין. נדרנו לא נדרה, וזורנו לא אזורי, ושבוענו לא שבוס. Kol Nidre Arome Vekoname Vekinuse Vekinuye Dindarno Dishtabano Uliagarimno Yosyarna Anavshazana Miyom Kippurim Shavar Al Yom Kippurim Zeh Umiyom Kippurim Zeh Al Yom Kippurim Habo Oleinu Letovo D'chon Igarat Novon Kulon Yom Sharan Shvikin Shvisin B'tilin U'mevutolin Lo sharirin V'lo kayomin Nidrona lo nidre Besorana lo ezore Ushvuosona lo shvugos Kol Nidre Vesore Ushvure Lavarome Vekoname Vekinuse Vekinuye Indarno Rishtabano Leagarimno Udasarno Anavshosano Yom Kippurim Shabbat Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu Letovo V'cholo Shevikin Shevisin V'telin U'mevutolin Lo sharirin V'lo kayomin Nidrona lo nidre Ezorona lo ezore Ushvuosana lo shvugos. Page 68. When he's long Lager agar bezocham Ki cholam bishkaga. When he's loud the Golan has in Israel agar bezocham Ki cholam bishkaga. When he's loud the Golan has in Israel agar bezocham Ki cholam bishkaga. הלכנו לחבון העם הזה, כגודל חסדך וכשם עשת לעם הזה, ממצרים ועד הנה, ושם נאמר. ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדברך, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדברך, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כי יתברכו. Yom Tov, and your fast is beginning. We'll make that bracha after we, communally, after we turn the streaming off and say goodbye to those who are watching on the live stream. Over to a brief word from our esteemed president.
Gemar Tova. I know what everybody's thinking. It's the worst of both worlds. Alan Nemus couldn't be here and Larry Friedman could. But I'm here to briefly um, make an appeal on behalf of Base Abraham. It's customary to give the appeal on Yom Kippur. One of the reasons it's customary to give it before Yizkor is when we say Yizkor, one of the things we say is, Kol Nidre, without making a vow, I pledge to give charity in memory of the person I'm saying Yizkor for, and giving to Base Abraham is a wonderful way to give. The thing I'd like to say is I actually miss seeing some of you people in person. So it's it's very inspiring, seriously, to see this dedicated group that's here in person and all the people watching us online. I want to be brief. A lot of serious things have happened during this quarantine. One of the unfortunate things about the quarantine is I had to listen to my own voice when I recorded the appeal for Base Abraham, which is on the website for those who want to watch that. So just briefly, I want to make a couple points. One, the Yom Kippur appeal is a critical part of our budget. So I won't belabor that. The money is a critical part of the budget that keeps us going. I just want to say that standing here calls to mind all the people who've made it possible for us to continue during this extraordinary time, this pandemic. The rabbi mentioned them. The one person he left out was himself, rabbi, and that's the seminary he went to. But I'm confident that the syllabus did not include a course called Rabbinics during a pandemic. Nevertheless, he has risen to the occasion in extraordinary fashion, and we're grateful for that. As I said, the appeals are a very critical part of our budget. If you're able to, and I'll say this, I heard a saying the other day: if you're if you're enjoying the shade of a tree, it's because somebody you probably don't know planted that tree a long time ago. And we are here today because the generations who came before us built this community, built this institution, and made it possible for us to be here. People, of which we're a microcosm, have faced many challenges over time. I can't help but thinking of the Jews in the camps of Eastern Europe during the Holocaust, who somehow found a way to say Kol Nidre, even under those conditions. Lahavdil, I'm not making any comparisons. What we're dealing with is a faint echo of that. But those Jews knew that they were part of a chain, that they were helping forge another link in a chain that has endured for hundreds, even thousands of years. We have been given the merit to forge another link in that chain. And God willing, we will rise to that occasion, and we will be remembered. Those of us who are here in person, those of us who are watching us online, we will look back ourselves, and future generations will look back and say, they forged another link in that chain. And if you donate to our appeal, that is a way to do that. And I guarantee you, you will immediately and for years to come feel a special sense of satisfaction if you can donate generously to our appeal. Many of you have donated generously. I want to thank you, and thank you for your consideration. And again, encourage everyone to give as much as you can to our Yom Kippur appeal this year. On behalf of the board of Base Abraham, I want to wish everyone a Gemar Tova, and thank you for your generosity.
Yosher Koach, Larry. Thank you for your inspiring appeal, both for just now and in the recording that you made. And I want to thank everybody who's already responded to that appeal and who's going to respond to that appeal for making not only tonight's service, but all of the services and activities that we've planned in somewhat creative measure to take place during COVID over the coming months and weeks as this situation continues to make all those things possible. So thank you very much. This has, let me just get a time check. Okay, good. In good shape. This has been a very difficult year for the world and for the Jewish people in particular. Our nation and the world have been battered by not only the plague of COVID-19, but ever more tangible and traumatic evidence of the present reality of climate change, rising tides of hatred and political polarization, growing distrust of science among its large swaths of our nation, which itself exacerbates all of the challenges above. And even as Israel has made historic strides in the realm of international diplomacy, signing treaties with countries that have long preferred to keep any relationship with the Jewish state on the down low, we as Jews in the diaspora have been faced with ever more frequent incidents of anti-Semitism, ranging from the relatively trivial Zoom bombings to anti-Semitic graffiti to actual arson of synagogues. And we've seen an increase in anti-Semitic rhetoric and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories making their way into mainstream political discourse. And then, in the last 2 months, the Jewish people lost two giants. In August, Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, whose project of translating the Talmud into modern Hebrew and into English, as well as other initiatives such as the Global Day of Jewish Learning, spearheaded and helped him come to embody and symbolize a transformation and democratization of the landscape of Torah learning all over the world. And as if the loss of Rav Steinsaltz wasn't bad enough, just 10 days ago on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Zecher Tzadekes Livracha, also passed away. And whatever one's feelings about the partisan battle over filling Justice Ginsburg's seat, the world and the Jewish people lost a great woman that day. Justice Ginsburg was not only the architect of the legal fight for gender equality in the United States, she was also only the second woman and the first Jewish woman to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. She was one of the most admired and powerful Jews, let alone Jewish women, in the world. And she was someone who, through her own close personal friendship with her ideological opponents, that is sorely lacking in too many people today. And to stand on the day of judgment 10 days ago, knowing that God had chosen that moment to take from us someone of Justice Ginsburg's stature, I felt that that timing could not be a good sign for the judgment we were in store for this year. The Midrash in Sanhedrin says the death of a tzaddik is ra lo v'ra la'olam. It's bad for them and it's bad for the world. However, the Gemara, the Talmud in Tractate Rosh Hashanah, says something different about the death of the righteous. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says, the Gemara of the Rosh Hashanah compares the death of the righteous to the destruction of the temple. It's not just bad, it's catastrophic. And if this is the case, the claims made that the timing of Justice Ginsburg's death was a sign that she herself was a tzadekes are cold comfort, only adding to the evil of her loss. To lose Justice Ginsburg and Rav Steinsaltz in such close succession is indeed not just evil for them and their families, but evil for the world. However, in contrast to the Gemara and Rosh Hashanah and the Mishnah and Sanhedrin, the Gemara in Moed Katan makes a very different claim about the death of the righteous, stating that the death of the righteous atones for their generation. This view is repeated in the Midrashic work, the Sifrei, where the rabbis compare the death of the righteous to Yom Kippur in this regard. And they say that because the fact that the laws of Yom Kippur, which we will read in Shul tomorrow, are introduced in the Torah as having been spoken by God after the death of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Abihu, the rabbis learn from this that just as Yom Kippur atones, so too the death of the righteous atones for their generation. So I have two problems with this idea. One is textual and one is conceptual. The textual problem is, how do I reconcile this idea that the death of the righteous atones for the generation with the statement in the Mishnah that the death of the righteous is bad for them and bad for the world? If it's an atonement, shouldn't that be a good thing? My conceptual problem is, I think, even harder. Are the rabbis really saying that righteous people die for the sins of others? It doesn't sound like Judaism to me. It sounds like some other religion. Now, maybe it's not that God is propitiated by the death of the righteous as through some kind of human sacrifice. Chas v'shalom. Perhaps it's that just as on Yom Kippur we atone by afflicting ourselves, by causing ourselves physical suffering through fasting, the death of the righteous, by causing us suffering, helps us atone. We feel anguish at the death of a righteous person. And this suffering we experience somehow atones for our sins. However, Rav Yeshayahu Horovitz, who lived in the 16th and early 17th century in Prague and later Eretz Yisrael, in his work, the Shnei Luchot HaBrit, or the Shalah, writes something that I think hints at a more compelling explanation that can address both of our questions. The Shalah writes that the rabbis compared the death of the righteous to Yom Kippur to teach us, and the Shalah doesn't say this explicitly, but I infer from his writing that perhaps the death of the righteous atones not just when we do tshuva, but because it helps us do tshuva. It's not that there's something about the death of a righteous person that propitiates God, or even that it causes suffering through which we pay some kind of spiritual debt for our sins. But that the death itself inspires us. If this is the case, I can understand how our two seemingly contradictory texts coexist. When a righteous person's death inspires their generation to do teshuvah, then it's an atonement for them. And when it does not, then it's bad for them and bad for the world. But why should the death of the righteous inspire us to change our ways, to serve God? Shouldn't their lived example be enough for us? Why do I need them to die in order to be inspired to change? Perhaps the answer is that sometimes the living example of a great person actually lets me off the hook. If I see the righteous people of the world and think, well, as long as there are people like that in the world, we're okay. The world doesn't need my measly contributions. As long as there are Torah giants like Rav Steinsaltz, who needs my Torah learning? Who needs my teaching? As long as there are people as brilliant and dedicated to the pursuit of justice as Justice Ginsburg, the world doesn't need me joining in that fight. We make the mistake of imagining that these people who should be great role models are not there to be role models, but to be our moral surrogates. For some of us, ironically, the existence of giants like Rav Steinsaltz, like Justice Ginsburg, actually discourages us from fulfilling our obligations to pursue justice, to learn and teach Torah. I know there are many people in the world who have been inspired to become Torah scholars by the example of Rav Steinsaltz. And there are many people who have been inspired by the example of Justice Ginsburg to fight for equality and for justice. But I suspect there are actually far more people who find their examples inspiring in the abstract, but not inspiring enough to lead us to act. We don't make those pursuits that they champion central to our lives. And we feel okay about that because we know that there are people like Rav Steinsaltz, like Justice Ginsburg, doing the work for us, we think. And so for those of us who are in this latter category, the deaths of giants like these ought to shake us out of our complacency. Without Rav Steinsaltz in the world, suddenly I understand that the project of Torah learning depends not on a few great scholars, but on the participation of every Jew. Without Justice Ginsburg on the bench, suddenly I understand that if we want a world of equality and justice, we all have to pursue that goal, not relying on others to do the work for us. Whether the death of these great people is a form of atonement or simply bad news is up to us. If we as individuals and as a people rise up in the wake of Justice Ginsburg's death and commit ourselves to fighting for justice and equality, then her death will have been an atonement. If we do not, it was just bad. And if we commit ourselves in the wake of Rav Steinsaltz's death to learning Torah and communicating Torah that is vibrant and accessible, then his death will have been an atonement. And if we do not, his death was nothing but evil for the world. And just like the deaths of the righteous to which it is compared, Yom Kippur can either be a joyful day or merely an affliction. For those who do not use this day to repent, to return to our relationship with God, Yom Kippur is about depriving the body a bitter day we struggle to get through and a day we look forward to having behind us. But if we allow Yom Kippur to inspire us to change, to recommit ourselves to Torah, to God, to ethics, to justice, to serving God and drawing close to Him, then Yom Kippur is a day of great joy and comfort. The books of judgment are still open. The choice is up to us. Let us take up the challenge. I will not be Rav Steinsaltz, but I can learn the Torah that I can learn. I will never be Justice Ginsburg, but I can contribute whatever measure of time, resources, and talents I have to the pursuit of justice. If I do these things, and if we all do these things, then the deaths of these giants was not meaningless. In a moment, we're going to say Yizkor. Normally, these prayers are said during the day, but in order to say them with the most people gathered together in person and virtually, we will say them now before the onset of Chag and before we have to turn off the live stream. Normally in Yizkor, we pledge to give tzedakah in memory of a departed relative. This year, as we recite Yizkor prayers, I encourage us to take a moment to think about the positive values, the midot, the character traits worth emulating, the mitzvot that were modeled by the people that we're remembering. And to make a mental pledge, bli neder, not only to give tzedakah in their memory, but also to carry out the good work, the mitzvot, and the values that they upheld. In this merit, may we not only make our loved ones' memories a blessing indeed, but may we also merit to see a swift end to the pandemic and the scourge of hatred and injustice in our land, and may we soon see the messianic age of lasting and sustainable justice and peace when the spirit of Torah and justice permeate the world. We now turn to page 502 for Yizkor. Those of you who are watching on the live stream, if you don't have a Siddur or Machzor with Yizkor in it, there is a PDF of the Yizkor prayers available on the Beis Abe website. There's a link on the Beis Abe website. And for Yizkor, I invite those whose parents are both living to use the time for quiet meditation. The rest of us, take your time in reciting all the relevant prayers, and we will join together with a single prayer for martyrs. Normally we say a prayer also for specifically martyrs of the Holocaust and soldiers of the IDF. We will include those individuals in the general prayer for martyrs, and we will recite a prayer for the memory of Rabbi Magensi as well. But for now, let's take a few minutes to recite Yizkor prayers for our own relatives privately. If you're still reciting, use core prayers for your own relatives and loved ones. Please continue. I will be reciting a prayer for martyrs, followed by a prayer for Rabbi Megensi. Yizkor Elohim, Nishmot HaKadoshim VaHaTehorim, Shemusu v'Shehergot V'Dror HaChaim, Nishmot Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Ra'el Leah, Yimshal Tzadikim V'Tzkaniot, Shebegan Eden, V'Nomar Amen. El Malei Rachamim, שוכן במרומים, עמצה מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, במחלות קדושים וטהורים, כצוהר הרקיע מזהירים. אז נשמע הרב אברהם משה חיים זלמן, בן הרב מרדכי ניסן, שהלך לעולמו. בחבול שבלי נדרת אין זרקה זובנס קרס נשמסו וגן עדן תהא מנוחתו אכן ברחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לכל עמים לצרור החיים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר אמן. With that, we will say goodbye to those who are watching us on the live stream. I want to bid all of you who are watching at home a good night and Gemar Chatima Tova. We normally will sing Lashana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim on our holidays. Looking forward to celebrating next year in Jerusalem. This year I'll say next year in Jerusalem, and if not Jerusalem, at least in person. Gemar Chatima Tova and Tzom Kol, an easy fast.